Hey, it's Leifer on Your Marks Wrestling, and I'm here with a 205 live review. It's a day late because my PVR decided that rather than watching the show when I wanted to watch it, I wanted to watch it on Thursday at 4 a.m. My PVR knows me so well. So the show starts with Hideo Itami and Akira Tozawa versus Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado. The tag team match is okay. Metalik's taking a lot of the damage early on. There's a lot of previewing WrestleMania matches that have nothing to do with the cruiserweights, which is kind of bothering me. Itami and Dorado have a bit of a feud going on right now, and throughout this match, it's kind of a running theme that Itami's just trying to bother Dorado. There's a few dive spots, a few kind of special moments, but nothing really crazy. Then Metalik goes for his Metalik driver, which is basically, I think it's a Michinoku driver, but a little bit different in terms of the setup. When he goes for that move, Itami counters it by basically trying to rip off his mask. That angers Dorado, so Dorado comes in and kind of a four-man brawl essentially breaks out. Itami kind of ends up on the outside, but then he runs in and he takes out Lince Dorado at the knees. And that's basically the end of the match. It ends in a double DQ. It's kind of a non-ending. Then we have a promo with Drew Gulak, who explains that his match with Mark Andrews has been delayed, and that he's not trying to avoid anything. He just wants Andrews to be at full strength. And then he said he was going to prepare a slideshow as to why he held Andrews in a in a hold extra long. But what he said is it didn't take that many slides. A slide comes up, says, because I could. And I actually thought that was pretty good. Andrews cuts his own little promo. Basically says that Drew Gulak is underestimating him, and it sets up the match for next week. Then we have a little thing of Drake Maverick talking to Tony Nese and telling him, like, you have untapped potential. Tony Nese goes in against a jobber called Jonathan Pierce, who has a good physique at least. So they have a lockup, and Pierce essentially just kind of manages to break the lockup, and then celebrates and flexes, which is kind of funny. And then Nese completely one-ups him. The rest of the match is kind of one-sided with Nese winning. At one point, Pierce kind of tries to walk out, and Nese goes out and grabs him, brings him back into the ring. Eventually, he hits a combination move, so he hits this kind of jump over the top rope onto the second rope, moonsault, backflip onto the guy. He then does the kick into the kind of holding the guy in a fireman's carry and does a gut buster from that position. I love gut busters. They look so painful. I love them. And then he does the flying knee, which is just a knee while the opponent is down in the corner. And he gets the win. So then we have another kind of situation backstage where Kalisto's talking to Dorado, who's getting his knee looked at, and he says, I'll be back after my match. Then Buddy Murphy comes in and says, hey, whatever happens in the match tonight, it's not personal. But then he says, but I'm going to win. So then we get the match between Kalisto and Buddy Murphy. And this match is just before I get started, very good. The crowd up to this point was dead silent, and this match really woke them up. It took a little while, but it got them going. So there's basically it starts off so, but then it gets into this sequence of really cool moves, kind of escapes. So basically, Murphy tries to do a Hurricane Rana on Kalisto, who essentially kind of bounces off of his head onto his feet, which is impressive. Then there's another move where Kalisto essentially walks backwards on his hands. And then Kalisto hits a move on Murphy, and Murphy does a cartwheel out of it, and it's a beautiful cartwheel. It looks great. And the crowd just starts cheering him on. They went through every single cheer you can think of. You know them all. This is awesome. They cheered 205 Live. They cheered "Holy shit!" They cheered "Fight Forever," and it was all deserved. It was really good. So I'm going to go over a few of the things. I think a running theme was Kalisto has all this speed, and Buddy Murphy has all this strength, but he also has a lot of speed, so that's why he's so hard to beat. At one point, Murphy does a vertical, essentially a vertical release suplex while he's kind of running forward onto Kalisto, and is trying to do this onto the apron, but they barely catch any apron, and it looks super painful because it just kind of nicks off the apron and falls onto the ground. The ref jumped out right away and checked on Kalisto because it looked like he might have broken his back. But he was fine. Then Kalisto hits a basement Rana, which is a kind of classic Kalisto move. But Murphy sold it so well, he basically made it look like he planted his head into the mat and then just kind of stopped moving altogether. It looked awesome. It looked super brutal. I loved it. Eventually there's a spot when they're outside and Murphy monkey flips Kalisto onto the announcer's table, which hadn't been cleared out. And while it's not the most exciting of moves, it just kind of worked in this match, and the crowd loved it. I'm looking at my notes again because there's a lot of moves in this match. We get Kalisto tries a Rana from the top rope, and Murphy, showing his strength again, stops him from doing it and converts it into a power bomb where he holds him down in a jackknife cover. Is it jackknife cover? Jackknife power bomb? Whatever. You guys understand. Holds him down. Kalisto kicks out at 2, so Murphy just kind of picks him up and then kicks him in the face, which also looked brutal, and gets another near fall for that. Then Kalisto hits a Canadian Destroyer on Murphy, and Canadian Destroyer is one of the coolest looking moves, and so he gets a near fall out of that. Then there's this kind of, the end spot is Murphy's trying to hit Murphy's Law and Kalisto's trying to wriggle out of it, but Murphy is strong enough to essentially finish it off. It looks a little bit sloppy, but it looked a little bit real at the same time. It wasn't the strongest end, but the rest of the match was it was so good. And that crowd went from being like completely dead to completely into the show. Those guys deserve a lot of credit. Buddy Murphy, man, on NXT, a forgotten man, an also ran kind of deal, gets to 205 Live, and that guy's got superstar written all over him. I think he's a future cruiserweight champion, and I think that he could easily move up to something bigger because he's a pretty big guy. His physique is pretty impressive. So then we get a passionate Drake Maverick telling you about, or encouraging people to tune in to WrestleMania early. He says, you're going to get to see all these great things like Ronda Rousey's debut and, Brock Lesnar. But the thing that everybody's going to be talking about at the end of WrestleMania is going to be the Cruiserweight match. And you need to see it. You need to see it because it's going to be your WrestleMania. The delivery of Drake Maverick in this was great. He was just super passionate. Made me really look forward to WrestleMania. I know it's going to be a 7-hour show, and I'm going to want it to end as soon as possible once we get to the 4-hour mark. But he's right. I'm really disappointed, actually, that the Cruiserweight match is on the pre-show. I feel like it's deserving of being on the big show, and there's some other matches I would move up, or down, I should say. Then we get a little summary of the Cruiserweight tournament that led to the WrestleMania match. And, it's pretty typical. At the end, there are a little bit of like video promos from Alexander and Ali. Both are cutting typical good guys. I'm going to win. He's good. I'm better kind of promos. Fine. I like it. It's exactly what it should be. As a whole, this episode of 205 Live was pretty good. I didn't like the non-ending to the first piece, and ending it on a video package is kind of like, But that match between Buddy Murphy and Callisto gave it a much better score than this show deserved. I'm going to say this was a 7 out of 10. Were it not for that match, it would be a 5 or 5.5 out of 10. Like, it was not a special show until that Buddy Murphy Kalisto match went on. So big credit to them. If you have a chance, go check out that match if you're not going to watch 205 Live yourself. That one match is definitely worth it. I'm going to be back with an NXT review shortly. And if you like the 205 Live review, hopefully my PVR will not make the decision for me that I want to see it on Thursday, and it will actually let me see it on Tuesday. So yeah, hopefully I'll have another review on, I guess it would be Wednesday mornings when I normally post them. All right, thanks for watching.